how important are friendships to maintaining not just sanity, but happiness?
Yeah.
I think they're very important, but you tell us.
Yeah, they're huge. I mean, if I had to pick one thing you could do to be happier, it would be to improve and engage in social connection, whether that's with a really good friend, with a stranger. And this is the kind of stuff that matters not just for things like happiness, but for longevity too. There's some lovely work coming out of Bob Walderman's lab at Harvard that's been part of this sort of Harvard adult study of development, right? So they follow individual Harvard students from way back in the day through their 80s, and now they're kind of continuing this longitudinal study, studying, not just those individuals, but the kids of those individuals and the grandkids of those individuals. And one of the things that this really long-running, huge study has found is that if you want the best predictor of happiness in life, but also health later in life, it really just seems to boil down to your social connections. They just matter much more than we think.
In both ways, right? So if you have a lot of connections and a lot of friendships, you're healthy. And I guess it follows that the opposite is true, but not always. And people who don't have friends or connections to loved ones are at the worst peril of depression and disease, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Surgeon General likes to quote that self-reported loneliness, if you self-report on surveys that you feel very lonely, that's as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's twice as bad as being obese for all kinds of things like your existence of heart disease and inflammation and just like chronic health problems. Like just not having social connection is that bad.
Which age groups in America today are the happiest and which are the least happy? And I know it's going to be a disconcerting answer from you.
No, it's actually pretty good, I think, for you.
Oh.
So yeah, so historically, we've thought of happiness as sort of a U-shaped function. So the young folks tend to be really high in happiness. Then you get to college, things go down. Your 30s, things go down. They hit a kind of nadir around 48, 49. So I'm actually just turned 49, so I was starting to go back up on the curve. Yep. And then things get better and better into old age, which is, again, not what we expect. I think we expect the young side. That kind of makes sense that young people should be happier. But we don't see the kind of upswing towards the end of life. But the closer you get to death, despite the health problems, despite the grief, despite the kind of objectively bad stuff that we know can happen later in life, you actually wind up being happier. I think the only caveat to that, though, is that U-shaped pattern has been flattened over time. Older individuals have become less happy than they were, say, 20 years ago. And much more profoundly, young people have become much, much more unhappy than they were before.
Right. No, well, that's the thing that gives me pause. That's why I was making the remark that I made, because that's sort of sad and upsetting.
Super sad. Yeah, the time of life that you're most supposed to be happy, our current young people are experiencing.
Oh my gosh. I think about my kids who are happy and well-adjusted, but they don't know how happy they should be.
Yeah.
They have very good lives.
And even if they're feeling okay, like their generation is not. So right now, among college students, over 40% report being too depressed to function most days. Over 60% say that they feel very lonely most of the time. Another over 60% report feeling very anxious. 1 in 10 current college students has seriously considered suicide in the last year, right? Like it's really an epidemic.
So what do we do about that, Professor?
Well, I think we try to teach people, how to overcome their misconceptions when it comes to what matters for happiness. I think, a lot of the misconceptions we've talked about, pursuing money, pursuing these accolades, at all costs, right? Not investing in your social connection, not investing in other positive emotions like gratitude, where you're sort of striving for everything, not noticing what you have. I think these are easy behavioral and mindset hacks that we can all engage in to feel a little bit better. I think our culture, especially for young people, has pushed people away from that. But I think there are things we can do to get back towards that.